Don't you want it? 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 You lose your little mind. My Deadlights.
Welcome to the Deadlights podcast, Minisode. I'm your host, Sam Johnston.
I'm Leslie, and welcome to another little Minisode.
Little Minisode.
Yeah.
Because you can never get enough.
Absolutely
of
not.
us.
No.
I
I
can't.
hope you shouldn't.
No.
No.
You shouldn't.
You shouldn't.
How dare you?
Absolutely.
You won't.
Stay tuned.
Because we're here anyway, so whether you're watching us or not, we're here.
We're here. Alive. Well, I just wanted to take a moment and talk about how we got into horror films and what are our first couple of horror films that we obsessed about. And just kind of like get into the background of why we're even doing this.
Why we're even doing
this. Why this genre?
Yeah.
You know?
It's true. I think it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've definitely discussed it before, but I wanted to have it on our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's important, and I think that, at least for myself, movies have always been important to me, and media, that form of media has just been something that I've been surrounded with my whole life, is being in a family that is creative and in, around actors and that kind of stuff. It just was a natural thing for me to be into movies. And then growing up, horror movies for me almost started as like a rebellious kind of thing, because it's a sort of thing that I remember sneaking into, like movie theaters. You buy a ticket for one movie, but then you sneak into the movie theater.
Is it like rebellious against society or rebellious in your family? Like, does your family
like society? My family, I don't think has an opinion. It's not like they were trying to deter me from horror movies or anything like that. They didn't. They knew that we were sneaking into movies. They didn't care. So I guess it's more of like that kind of rebellious thing. But also, we were sneaking into those movies because we genuinely wanted to see them. We wanted to be scared. We wanted to have that experience. So at least at the beginning, it felt like a just a thing that was like shared with friends and like just a fun experience. But as I got older and actually went to film school and started creating my own media, thrillers and horror was always the genre that I went back to, because it continued to be the most effective genre for me. As my love of film grew. It grew with that genre as well. And I continually wanted to be pushed almost to experience things that I might not have ever thought of. Because, this professor at school said, I think the best... He was talking about documentaries, but I think it applies to, all media and film. Watching a film is an opportunity to go to a place that you've never been or would never otherwise go to.
Yeah.
In horror, you're going to the extremes of that, obviously.
Seeing other people being torn apart or being tormented by something, or you are the ghost in some occasions. It's
definitely an extreme. It's an homage to the extreme of the human psyche, almost. I think that's kind of what kept me there. And, as we've been talking about these movies over the past couple months and just really looking at them, you can't help but also appreciate the things that these movies are trying to say too. They're telling these stories and making you go through these emotions for a reason. And these filmmakers, I feel like the best ones that we've seen almost are having a cathartic moment themselves when they're making these movies and writing these things, and it's an expression of emotion that they're going through. And it's
not in your face, because yes, we get a spectrum of talent and storytelling. It could be the wackiest, craziest thing, and not have a lot of, political issues
Right.
embedded or anything like that. So it could be anywhere from being like brutally like just funny or, you know, having like what we just watched, having trying to say something,
Yeah.
but not in your face,
Mm-hmm.
because there's monsters that don't exist, like vampires and stuff. But yeah, what's a movie that you remember, like the first horror film that you remember, truly like being
Really
just
scared.
enthralled, either scared or just like fascinated with it?
So one that actually sticks out really most and actually affected me for a while and like really disturbed me in a way that I'd never felt that way before.
Fun.
Another Spanish film is called The Orphanage, and we rented it from Blockbuster, and I remember watching it with my dad and my sister. It was just one of those movies where we thought the cover looked cool, and the story was like, it's a modern ghost story, but it was very effective and very disturbing and dark.
That's interesting.
I just remember like up until the last shot, like when it went black at the end, I just had this like spine chilling, disturbed feeling. And maybe at that moment I didn't exactly like it, but it was extremely effective.
Have you seen it since?
I've seen it a couple times.
Yeah?
Since, yes.
Is it on this list?
It is on this list.
Ooh,
and actually might be.
I can't not.
It is. It's I've seen it. I've seen it a couple times since. Definitely wasn't as effective as that first time, but it is a very effective movie still. And
The Orphanage.
The Orphanage.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very good. It's
Yeah.
very good. That sticks out to me. And it's a good movie, too. I remember thinking that as well. It's like, not only is it really scary and disturbing, it's like a really good movie. And
because I think that's the thing that a lot of people, either they don't like horror movies because they don't want to be in that world, they don't want to be scared, they don't want to see gruesome things, or they're like, I don't want to see a bad movie. Because there's a lot of not so greatly written or well acted ones. But
or just well made.
Yeah.
In general.
But there's definitely those really good ones mixed within that. And I don't like that a lot of people have this kind of like bad rep for horror films when in general there's a lot of bad and good film, regardless of, you know, your biases that you're going to encounter, you know.
In any genre.
In any genre.
Yeah. And to me, the horror genre, like comedy, it's trying to invoke a emotion that is difficult. It's hard to make people scared.
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing to do, to build tension and ultimately scare a person for 90 minutes. Just like comedy, it's not easy to write jokes and make people laugh. You're pushing to an extreme, so it makes sense that there's a lot of bad people attempting it and failing.
Yeah.
But like you said, with all genres, that happens.
Yeah, and like ultimately, either you're making a film that's already been made, to follow that trend and the cultness of that film, or you're doing a brand new one and that will never be given the, you know, what's the word I want to say?
The attention it deserves.
Yeah, because it will never, I mean, not that I think that an award is the epitome of you making a great film, because those things don't matter anyway, but there's no genre in which like the Oscars hold horror films or thrillers into like they're just like not paying attention to them. So like it will be hard for a filmmaker to go out of their way and spend money and energy and time into making something that A, not a lot of people are going to want to see, or B, it's not going to get the recognition they deserve within. I mean, it is its own little thing that like exists in online or something like that. Like a lot of people do see horror.
Well, and you're right, and I think that's why a lot of times you can feel the passion that these filmmakers, especially in horror, that you can feel the passion that they have for being filmmakers and being storytellers, because you are going into this thing essentially knowing that you're probably not going to make a lot of money or any money at all.
Mm-hmm.
So you're making this for the reason of you have a passion for it.
And a lot of these movies, like modern horror films, are just directly streamed. They're just like put in these platforms straight to your TV. I mean, I guess now it's more common because of the pandemic and everything, and people still not going to movie theaters as often as they used to. But I mean, regardless, like there would be a lot of Netflix horror films, you know.
Yeah. And there are.
And there are.
And there are a lot of bad ones. How about yourself? As far as what was it that really got you into horror?
I just remember really liking horror, not being so afraid of it since I was little. Like Chucky came out, maybe the second movie or something, when I was in kindergarten, and I remember all of my friends talking about it and being so scared of it. I don't remember watching Chucky, but I knew what it was. But the whole time I'm like, it's a doll. Like, the only movie that I got afraid of was It. It was the only one that truly, to my core, I just like couldn't watch it. It was so terrifying. But the other movie that I did enjoy, and I could see it over and over and over again, it's not a great film, but The Haunting. I just really liked that movie. And I think it also like helped me realize that I'm not completely into guys, because what's her name is in that film.
I've not seen it, so I don't know.
Oh, you haven't seen it? Oh,
put it on the list.
Yes, it needs to be on this list. I would love to watch that again. It's been a long time, but yeah, it used to come on every Saturday, and I would just watch it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just was really intrigued, and I knew they were acting. I just knew it, and I think that's what like led me to want to act, because I could just see this was a story. It's not real. It's on TV. It's not around me, you know. So.
And that, I mean, I'm assuming it was kind of like a form of escapism too, because you knew it was coming every week, so you could, you know.
Yeah.
No, you can just kind of just.
And it was in English, so I couldn't really like understand.
Oh, okay.
Because I didn't learn English until like I was 11, so I just saw visuals. I just saw people moving about this world. So I couldn't really understand. Language. There was a language barrier, so I couldn't understand what they were saying. Anyway, so I didn't get that.
Doesn't matter.
No.
Doesn't really
and
matter.
I mean, for the most part, I didn't have a lot of restrictions growing up. So like, I didn't have that like parental guidance of like you can't watch that. So I saw it, and it wasn't until I moved to my new home with my guardians. My mom just didn't like scary stuff. Didn't like the color black. Didn't like skulls. Didn't like scary stuff. Didn't like Harry Potter. So like there was a long time before I was able to like dive back into horror. But my dad did. He liked it, and he like one time I think my mom was out of town for something, and he snuck us into a horror film, and it was a foreign, I believe, French movie. I can't remember what it's called, but that one I remember shaking me, and I was a little older too. I was like maybe 13, 12, but it like shook me because there was no monster, there was no ghost. The bad person was a human being, and it like their psyche change, and through the half of the movie you're thinking, oh, this person's best friends with this other person, and it turns out no, she is obsessed with her best friend. And there's this whole thing. So like the main character ends up being the villain, and then now we like are changing storylines, and we are now trying to get our best friend, our true main character, to safety.
I see. Flips everything on its head.
It does. And like I remember there were moments where I couldn't see it because it was gruesome. Like there was a moment where the villain was just chasing her with a chainsaw. We're gonna have to look for it because there's just like images that like appear in my head. Yeah.
All right, it's the hunt. If any of this sounds familiar,
hey,
let us know.
Let us know. We need to find this.
Yeah.
Maybe by the time that they watch it, we might already have it
That's
in the
true.
bucket.
Yeah. Well,
but
still.
Yeah. Still.
Help us.
Yeah, so that's a film that I was like, holy shit. Like horror is more than just dolls talking or ghosts. Loch Ness Monster. I don't know.
Monster movies.
And
supernatural even.
Yeah.
This can be from a human.
Yeah. Which is, I do think that's when I'm shook the most. And I think that's why I don't like a lot of the, like, cannibalism stories. I can't watch those. I will for the sake of this podcast, but for my own, yes, I will power through. I will just, like, be circling around the room, just be like, no, I can't handle this, no. But yeah, that's how I got into that. And
that's great.
I think I watch horror films as a way to pay respect and homage to just filmmaking. There's just so much beautiful storytelling that you can do and invoke so much. Like, I think it's incredible when, as the audience member, you are shaken because something is coming across, whether visually, you know, with this film, a girl walks home alone at night. There was a lot of points where nobody was talking. They didn't need to. They just were portraying so much emotion through physical behavior that is just incredible as actors to do, and for a director to be able to get that across with a person.
Yeah. And it felt like everything, at least with that film and with a lot of movies that we've watched, like everything that they were doing and choosing to put in the movie was just servicing the story. They're telling stories. It's not about, at a certain point, even being scared. We're just telling these stories. And I think that's partly why I started doing the 31 Days podcast and continued into doing this one, is to bring appreciation to these films as films.
I also don't have a lot of people that like enjoying horror films.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to find people that will sit down every week and watch
movies. And like you, I like grew up in a household that loves movies, but like very specific ones. And there are some genres that I'm just like not a big fan of. But yeah, horror was one that I was able to find my passion through. So it's like really incredible to be doing this with you and being able to like just talk about
it.
Filmmaking.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's cool.
And talk about this genre that we both love.
We love
it.
Adam always tells me that perhaps I should should direct something because of the way that I've always looked at films. Yeah. I love analyzing them. Yeah. I'm not an expert, but I just like putting my opinions.
Neither of us are experts, but we just like talking about it, and that's just what it's about. We just need to talk about horror more. Come on, y'all. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. This was a nice little mini-sode.
Chat. Yeah. I just wanted to have it put on fucking in a podcast and just like, why are we even doing this? Why horror?
Why horror?
Why horror?
Because we love it.
Why not horror?
Why not horror?
Why not her?
Why not her?
Why her?
We love her. Her, awesome.
Yeah. Well, I'm your host, Leslie, and this is the end of this minisode.
This is the end of this minisode.
You can find me at Instagram, Color Me Leslie.
And you can find me at BeepBeepRichieT and the Deadlights Pod.
Yeah.
On Instagram.
Follow that.
That. And also check out Playground Social, which is the studio that we are recording this in. But until the next minisode, let's get mini spooky.
Ooh.
We love her. I love her.
We love her.